Hey, welcome back to the Soul Pod. This is Stacy. If you find yourself feeling overwhelmed or anxious or just troubled by the world or just generally unhappy, less happy than you'd like to be, this episode's for you. I'm going to share a tool that's going to help you relax more, have less anxiety, have less stress. And it's a trend that's emerging in a huge way right now, and it's only growing. It's been a problem that's been a long time coming. A good thing. More than 100 years ago, the famous writer Mark Twain wrote, "If you don't read the newspaper, you're uninformed. And if you do read the newspaper, you're misinformed." Sound familiar? The world hasn't changed much. In fact, it's only gotten worse because now the news is everywhere. And it's not just the newspapers, it's every source you could possibly imagine. It's in your face. It's the internet, it's news, it's papers, it's broadcast. But you know what? It's shrinking. There is a shrinking happening right now. There's been a disruption in news that's been going on since the internet happened. And so news has been fighting to stay relevant, traditional news. And it's not helping because they're shrinking. And as they shrink, they're panicking. So back when I worked in the newsroom when I was in college, there was a motto: if it burns or bleeds, it leads. And I think that still exists. It's been around forever. And the reason that saying exists is because the idea is that if it's frightening, if it draws their attention, it gets them watching, it keeps them watching it, you get more ratings, you can charge more for your ads. That's the game with news. Scarier, the more intense, the better. Well, right now they're ratcheting it up higher and higher and higher. And the reason they're doing that is because they're shrinking. Their market share is going down. There are actual people with podcasts who have larger audiences now than some of the major news sources out there, including CNN and Fox. They're freaking out because clearly you can run a podcast with 1, 2, 3 people. You need massive amounts of money to run a news station. So what's happening is people are unplugging. And I did this about 7 years ago. 7 years ago, after I'd started my meditation practice, I was trying to find other ways to relax and be calm. And I realized watching the news stressed me out. So I decided to take 30 days off from the news just to see what happened. And the results were so good that I never went back. I was so much more relaxed after 30 days. Within a week, I noticed a difference. Within 2 weeks, I was like, man, wow. And by the end of 4, I was just done. And mind you, I'm a guy who worked in the newsroom. I'm a news junkie. Most of my life, I've just got to be in front of the TV, seeing what's happening in the world. I felt like an irresponsible citizen if I didn't. But I'm going to make an argument that'll try to convince you that that's not the case. Not watching the news does not make you irresponsible. Because the truth is, there's not much you can do about what you see on the news anyway. For hundreds of thousands of years, the human body has been in this form. The central nervous system has not changed, the brain pan size either. So we process information the same way we did back way before cavemen, hundreds of thousands of years before cavemen. And at that time, we weren't aware of anything that was happening around us, anything frightening, anything at all for that matter, more than a couple hundred yards. Any danger was something we could probably see with the naked eye. And we certainly weren't aware of anything that was more than a quarter of a mile away from us. But now we can turn on the news and have the greatest horrors in the world in our face, 24 hours a day. And then we wonder why it's hard to sleep at night, why we're anxious, when we're looking at terrible things happening to good people that we're powerless to do anything about. And we are powerless to do anything about them until things change in world governments. The only thing we can do is locally. So being informed, though it might make you feel good about yourself, it doesn't make your central nervous system feel good. Your fight or flight response is triggered every time you watch those terrible things, and you're going to be more stressed and you're going to be more anxious. The famous Greek philosopher Epictetus wrote, "The more we value things outside of our control, the less control we have." And you know, we do this with news. We'll watch the news and we'll value these things that are outside of our control. And it makes us feel powerless. For the right reasons, because we're powerless. But when you quit the news, try this for 30 days if you haven't already. Quit the news. You'll reduce your stress and anxiety. It'll improve your productivity because you're less stressed, less distracted. It'll improve your mental and physical well-being. Yeah, your physical health actually gets better. Physical health actually gets better. Imagine that. Simply by not doing something, you improve your mental and physical health, your well-being, your focus, your productivity. And this all comes from just shutting down that fight or flight response you get when you tune into the news. A long time ago, news used to tell us what happened and we got to decide, and now they tell us how we're supposed to feel. And then we get to decide whether or not it's true. So, Mark Twain said, you can be uninformed or misinformed. I'm going to choose to be neither. I'm going to choose to inform myself if I choose to at all. And I'm going to act locally. And I'm going to continue to be relaxed. 7 years on, I'm not turning the news back on. Give it a shot. See how it works for you. But I can't recommend it enough. I'll see you on the next episode.